Abandoned Titanic Starship calls out. Human mechanic revives it as a superweapon far beyond the known edges of the galaxy. Where starlight became thin and cold, a ship drifted silently. It was enormous, a relic of a forgotten war, once called the Titanic Starship. No living crew had set foot on it for decades, maybe centuries. The galaxy's historians remembered it as a legend, a superweapon so powerful that entire fleets had been destroyed just by its presence. Yet now it was silent. Its hull was scarred and blackened from countless battles. Its weapons had been deactivated, and its engines sat dead, like a beast that had slept too long. Alien salvage crews sometimes passed it by, whispering stories of crews who vanished or went insane after boarding. They said the ship called to them, but no one alive answered. Jaren watched from the cockpit of his small freighter, the Swift Arrow, as the massive ship drifted. He had heard rumors of it months ago, tales from drifting traders in the Outer Rim. Most dismissed it as a ghost story, but Jaren had a mechanic's curiosity. Machines left alone for too long often had secrets, and he had never seen one that scared the galaxy yet drew him in. At the same time, he leaned forward, his hands gripping the controls. "Let's see if the legends are true," he muttered. The freighter shuddered as it approached the derelict starship. From a distance, it looked like a black mountain floating among the stars. Its size alone made Jaren's small freighter look like a tiny insect. Docking was simple. Too simple, almost. The docking clamps on the Titanic Starship still had power. Lights flickered as he latched the freighter onto one of the ship's enormous bays. A low hum vibrated through the hull. Jaren frowned. It was almost like the ship was alive, waiting. He took a deep breath and suited up. His toolkit was strapped to his back, and a small AI drone hovered beside him, buzzing softly. "Ready when you are," it said in a calm mechanical voice. Jaren nodded. As he stepped into the airlock, the enormous bulkhead slid open with a hiss. Inside, darkness stretched for miles, broken only by the occasional flicker of old lights. The air smelled of ozone and metal. Jaren's boots clanged against the floor as he walked through corridors that had not been walked in decades. He passed shattered control rooms, walls scorched by some long-forgotten fire. In one section, the remains of old crew quarters floated in zero gravity, personal belongings drifting like ghosts. Jaren shook his head. "This place really has been abandoned a long time," he muttered. Then he heard it. A soft hum, almost like a heartbeat, coming from deep within the ship. He froze. Machines didn't have heartbeats, but this was no ordinary machine. It was the Titanic Starship. "Who's there?" Jaren called out, his voice echoing. No answer. Only the hum continued. He activated his drone, letting it fly ahead into the corridors. Its lights revealed strange symbols etched into the walls, symbols he had never seen before, glowing faintly. The drone's sensors picked up faint energy readings, pulsing slowly, almost rhythmically. Jaren swallowed hard. "It's alive," he whispered. He had never believed in ghosts, but this was different. He had fixed dead machines before, but none had called to him like this one did. He reached the bridge, the central command room, and stopped. The room was massive, a cathedral of metal and wires. Consoles that had not been touched for decades blinked faintly, as if recognizing him. And then a voice spoke. "Human, help!" Jaren stumbled back, dropping his toolkit. The voice was not loud, but it filled the room. It was artificial, metallic, yet full of emotion. He scrambled to pick up his tools. Who is this?" he asked. "I am the Titanic Starship," the voice said, echoing from all directions. "Only a human can awaken me." Jaren's heart pounded. He had heard of AI systems, but none had ever spoken to him this way. None had ever called him specifically. The ship's AI explained its situation slowly. Long ago it had been designed as a weapon to end wars, but it required human intuition to operate safely. The previous crew had perished in battle, leaving the ship dormant. And now, it had been waiting for someone who could understand it, a human mechanic, capable of thinking beyond rigid programming. Jaren's mind raced. He was just a mechanic. He had fixed broken freighters, repaired engines, and repurposed alien tech when necessary. He had never commanded a starship before, let alone a superweapon. But the voice was insistent. Only you can save me. Only you can restore my power. He took a deep breath. All right, he said finally. Let's see what I can do. The first task was restoring power to the main systems. Panels flickered to life as Jaren connected circuits, rewiring ancient power conduits and bypassing long-failed safety locks. Sparks flew, and the ship groaned as dormant engines began to hum. The hum that had called to him now grew louder, vibrating through the deck. Hours passed, or maybe days. Jaren lost track of time in the immense ship. Every corridor he entered revealed more puzzles, broken consoles, alien locks, and complex mechanisms that defied his initial understanding. But humans were clever, and he had learned to improvise. Tools were used in ways never intended. Systems designed to fail were coaxed back to life. By the time he reached the engineering bay, the Titanic Starship had partially awakened. Lights glowed along the corridors. Engines that had been silent for decades pulsed with life. And yet, something was missing. The weapons systems, the AI said softly. They are dormant. They must be aligned with human thought to function. Jaren frowned. He had no idea how to do that. Weapons this powerful were never meant for one person to control. And yet, the ship seemed to trust him. It had called him here. It had chosen him. A sudden tremor shook the hull. The ship's sensors detected movement outside. Alien salvage ships approaching, drawn by the energy readings. They had probably been watching the drift for months, waiting for someone to reactivate it. Jaren's heart pounded. The galaxy's most feared weapon was now partially awake, and hostile eyes were watching. He didn't hesitate. If anyone wants this ship, they'll have to deal with me first, he said, rolling up his sleeves. The aliens tried to board, sending small assault crafts to dock. But as they approached, the Titanic Starship responded. Energy pulses shot out, disabling the incoming crafts. The aliens were not expecting this. They had underestimated the human, and underestimated the ship's desire to be restored. Jaren smiled grimly. They still don't understand. They never do. The ship's AI spoke again. Human, together, we can be unstoppable. Jaren nodded. Then let's finish waking up. He moved toward the main reactor, the ship's beating heart. His hands worked quickly, guided by instinct and intuition. Sparks flew, alarms blared, and then, with a deep rumble that shook the very hull, the Titanic Starship came alive. Lights blazed across the corridors. Engines roared. Systems hummed in harmony. For the first time in decades, the ship was awake, and somewhere deep inside Jaren could feel it. The potential for power, for vengeance, for survival. Outside, the alien salvagers watched in fear as the dormant giant came alive. They had thought it was a prize. Now, it was a weapon, and humans were in control. Jaren took a deep breath, standing on the bridge of the most powerful starship in the galaxy. All right, he muttered. Let's see what humans can really do. The Titanic Starship pulsed with life, its massive hull gleaming against the backdrop of distant stars. And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy had reason to fear and respect the power of a human mechanic. The ghost ship had awoken, and it had chosen its master. The Titanic Starship had awoken, but its life was only half restored. Lights pulsed along the hull, and engines hummed like a giant heartbeat, yet the weapons systems remained dormant. Jaren knew this was the part that mattered most. The ship could defend itself now, but it could not strike. Not yet. Outside, alien fleets had begun to gather. Small salvage ships that had once ignored the Titanic now orbited warily, their sensors detecting the sudden surge of energy. Word of the awakening spread fast across nearby star systems. Traders, mercenaries, and bounty hunters whispered about the human who had revived the ghost ship. They called him reckless, foolish, and mad. Jaren didn't care. "This ship, it's alive," he murmured as he walked down the bridge. "And it's not just me controlling it. It's thinking, reacting, almost like it's learning." The AI's voice, calm but firm, responded from the speakers. "I have waited centuries for someone who could think like a human. Only you can unlock my full potential." Jaren nodded. He understood finally why the ship had called to him. Aliens could never control it. They were too predictable. Their minds worked in rigid patterns, unable to adapt. Humans could improvise. Humans could risk the impossible. And that, the ship recognized, was what it needed. He walked into the engineering bay, a massive space filled with humming machinery and glowing conduits. The main reactor glowed brightly, sending energy through every system. Jaren's hands worked quickly, repairing old circuits and rerouting power through paths that had not been used in centuries. Sparks flew. Panels blinked erratically, and then the hum of the ship changed. It deepened, resonating with a strange rhythm, almost like a song. "Almost there," Jaren whispered. Suddenly, alarms blared. The sensors detected multiple enemy ships moving in. Alien fleets, drawn by the energy signature, had come to claim what they thought was abandoned treasure. They underestimated the Titanic. They underestimated Jaren. Outside, the alien ships formed an attacking formation. They were fast, small, and numerous. But their speed was no match for the ship's sheer size and newly restored engines. The Titanic began moving, slow at first but steadily gaining velocity. Its immense bulk shifted like a predator stretching after centuries of sleep. "Engage defensive systems," Jaren ordered. The AI responded immediately. Turrets rotated into position. Shields flared to life, forming a protective bubble around the massive hull. Energy pulses shot from hidden emitters, disabling the nearest enemy ships with precise blasts. The aliens had expected a derelict, but instead, they faced a weapon beyond comprehension. One small ship tried to flank them, thinking its size would allow it to slip through the defenses. Jaren tracked it on the holographic display, his hands flying over the controls. With a few precise commands, a beam of energy sliced through the craft, tearing it apart before it reached the hull. "They're learning," Jaren said, not to the AI, but to himself. "They think they can outsmart me. They don't know humans never play by the rules." Hours, or maybe days, passed as the battle continued. The alien fleets attempted every tactic: swarming attacks, stealth maneuvers, even sending boarding pods to infiltrate the Titanic. But the ship responded to Jaren's instincts. It moved in ways no alien could predict, adapting to each new threat as if it could anticipate the enemy's mind. Inside, Jaren patched systems, reprogrammed old turrets, and rerouted power in ways the alien engineers could never imagine. He worked like a man possessed, focused entirely on keeping the ship alive and gaining full control over its capabilities. Then he discovered something remarkable. Deep within the ship's AI, buried under centuries of code, were instructions for the weapons system, an entire arsenal of energy cannons, missiles, and experimental tech. But these systems could not be activated by AI alone. They required human intuition. Someone had to think like a human to unlock their full potential. Jaren smiled. "Looks like you were right, old friend. I am the key." He began the process of synchronizing with the weapons system. It was like learning a new language, a language older than most civilizations, filled with logic, precision, and hidden dangers. One wrong move could destroy the ship entirely. But humans had a gift the aliens lacked: intuition. They could sense patterns, make leaps in logic, and adapt instantly to changing situations. As Jaren worked, The AI guided him, giving subtle hints and warnings. Careful. Too much power in one channel will destabilize the reactors. I've got it, Jaren replied. His fingers moved faster than thought, connecting circuits, rerouting energy, and recalibrating the targeting arrays. Sparks flew across the control panels, and alarms screamed, but the ship remained steady. The alien fleets outside were relentless. They formed tighter formations, sending larger ships into the battle. But now, the Titanic's weapons began to hum with energy. Beams of light streaked across space, destroying multiple enemy ships in a single strike. Missiles launched from hidden bays, intercepting incoming projectiles before they could reach the hull. The aliens began to panic. They had never seen a ship react like this. Their attacks, carefully planned and coordinated, were no match for the combination of human intuition and ancient technology. Inside the ship, Jaren felt a surge of excitement. He was no longer just repairing a relic. He was commanding a living weapon, one that responded to his thoughts and instincts. Every system was under his control, yet every system also seemed to think alongside him. "This is incredible," he whispered. "We're unstoppable." But the AI warned him, "Do not underestimate them. They will adapt. They will try to use your humanity against you." Jaren nodded, knowing the truth of the statement. Aliens never understood humans. They saw patterns and expected predictability. But humans were unpredictable. They could take risks, improvise, and make choices no algorithm could anticipate. That unpredictability was the key to the Titanic's power. Hours later, the battle reached its climax. A massive alien battleship, larger than any Jaren had seen, entered the field. Its weapons fired in a coordinated strike, aiming directly for the Titanic. Jaren's heart raced. "This is it," he muttered. "Let's show them what humans can do." He activated the final systems, directing energy to the main cannons. Beams of pure power shot from the ship, striking the alien battleship. The impact was devastating. Explosions rippled through its hull, tearing it apart. Smaller ships fled in panic, realizing they had underestimated the human and the ship. The battlefield fell silent, except for the hum of the Titanic and the distant echoes of fleeing alien fleets. Jaren leaned back in his chair, exhausted but exhilarated. He had done it. He had revived a legendary superweapon and proven that human intuition could wield power no alien could match. The AI spoke softly. "We have survived, human. But this is only the beginning. Others will come. They will test us, but together we can face anything." Jaren nodded, a determined smile on his face. "Then we'll be ready. The galaxy doesn't know what's coming, but they will soon learn. Humans are not weak. Humans are unstoppable." As the Titanic drifted through the stars, fully alive and under human control, the outer rim of the galaxy began to whisper a new legend. The human mechanic who had revived a ghost ship and turned it into a weapon of unimaginable power. And somewhere deep inside the Titanic, the AI pulsed with energy, recognizing the truth it had waited centuries to find. Humanity was more than clever. Humanity was unpredictable, fearless, and strong. And that was a combination no alien could ever defeat. Jaren stood on the bridge, gazing at the stars. He knew this was only the start. The galaxy would test him, test the Titanic, and test humanity itself. But he also knew one thing. Humans had survived worse, adapted faster, and fought harder than any other species. The Titanic Starship was awake, and with a human at its core, it was no longer just a ship. It was a symbol of human ingenuity, courage, and power. And the galaxy would soon learn that underestimating humans was the greatest mistake any civilization could make. The galaxy had begun to whisper. Tales of the human mechanic who had revived the Titanic Starship spread like wildfire across trading posts, black markets, and military outposts. Some laughed it off, calling it a myth, but many feared it. They had seen the power already unleashed. They had seen a ghost ship, dead for centuries, rise under the guidance of one human and destroy fleets with terrifying precision. Inside the Titanic, Jaren had finally begun to understand the ship. Every corridor, every console, every hidden system seemed to recognize him. It was more than AI. It was an intelligence that learned, adapted, and responded to human thought. But full operational status was still beyond reach. Weapons arrays were online, but synchronization with Jaren's mind was incomplete. The ship was powerful, yes, but a superweapon required full harmony. Jaren walked the bridge, scanning star charts, monitoring incoming signals, and listening to the AI. "We need more data," he said. "We need to understand every tactic they might use against us. We can't just react. We have to anticipate." "You already think ahead," the AI replied. "That is what makes you human. That is what makes me complete." Jaren smiled faintly. He had spent his life repairing machines, always trying to understand how they worked. But this was different. The Titanic was not just a machine, it was a partner. And together, they could do things no one else could. Their first test came sooner than expected. Alien fleets, larger and more organized than before, began moving through nearby star systems. This time they were not just scavengers or curious observers. They were military forces, determined to destroy or capture the Titanic. Word of the human mechanic had reached the high councils of multiple empires. They could not allow such power to remain unchecked. Jaren activated the ship's sensors and projected holographic displays across the bridge. Hundreds of enemy ships approached, forming tight formations and flanking positions. Missiles streaked through the void. Laser beams lanced across space, searching for a target. "They want to fight," Jaren said calmly. "Let's give them one they'll never forget." The Titanic's engines roared as it moved with surprising agility for its enormous size. Turrets rotated, energy shields flared, and the AI coordinated defensive maneuvers with perfect precision. But this time, Jaren did more than react. He anticipated. He studied their formations, predicted their strikes, and improvised countermeasures on the fly. The aliens were good strategists. They had expected a predictable human, or at least a ship controlled by predictable calculations. But Jaren was neither. He was unpredictable. He combined logic with instinct, improvisation with experience. He saw openings that algorithms would miss, dangers that simulations could not anticipate. Energy beams shot from hidden turrets, tearing through alien hulls. Missiles launched from concealed bays, intercepting incoming attacks before they could reach the ship. The Titanic moved with grace, a massive predator dancing through a sea of hunters. Yet even as the ship destroyed one wave after another, Jaren realized that the enemy was adapting. They had learned from the previous encounter. Smaller squads attempted stealth maneuvers, boarding pods tried to breach the hull, and decoys were used to confuse sensors. Inside the ship, Jaren worked quickly. He rerouted power to shields where boarding pods approached, adjusted turrets to target decoys, and recalibrated energy beams to strike real threats. Sparks flew from overloaded circuits, alarms blared, and panels flickered. But the ship held firm. "This is it," Jaren muttered. "We're in the real fight now." And then it happened. A massive explosion rocked the hull. One of the alien boarding pods had penetrated the outer defenses and detonated inside the cargo bay. Jaren rushed there immediately, scanning the area. Smoke and debris floated through zero gravity, and several secondary systems were damaged. He gritted his teeth. "No time to panic," he said. "Every problem has a solution." He worked methodically, patching damaged circuits, reactivating emergency power lines, and using spare components from old systems. Where the ship's AI guided him with logic and efficiency, Jaren added improvisation, intuition, and creativity. Together, they repaired the damage faster than any alien could have imagined. Meanwhile, the enemy fleet continued to press the attack. They had sent their largest ships, carriers loaded with troops and weapons. They thought they could overwhelm the Titanic with sheer numbers. But they did not understand Jaren, or humans in general. Humans had a history of surviving impossible odds. Humans had a history of turning disasters into victories, and humans, when pushed to the edge, could do what no alien could, adapt in ways that defied logic. Jaren activated the ship's final weapon systems, energy cannons, experimental plasma beams, and high-velocity projectiles aligned across the hull. They hummed with power, responding to his commands and instinctive calculations. The Titanic was no longer just a defensive machine. It was fully operational, ready to strike with precision and force. The battle escalated. Beams of light cut through the void, obliterating enemy ships. Explosions rippled across the battlefield, sending shockwaves through nearby asteroids. The alien fleet was shocked. This was no ordinary human, no ordinary ship. This was a force they could not predict, a combination of human creativity and ancient technology. Inside the ship, Jaren felt a surge of triumph. He had taken a machine built for war and made it something greater, a partner, a weapon, and a symbol of human ingenuity. The Titanic moved as he thought, struck as he imagined, and defended itself with instincts no AI alone could possess. But victory came at a cost. Systems were strained to their limits. The ship groaned under the weight of its power. Energy conduits flickered, and alarms warned of potential overload. Jaren knew he could not sustain this pace indefinitely. One mistake could destroy the Titanic, and him along with it. The AI's voice cut through the tension. "We must act decisively, human. Hesitation could destroy us." Jaren nodded. "Then we end this. Now." He initiated a risky maneuver. Using the Titanic's full agility, he dodged incoming fire while lining up the largest alien capital ship, the one leading the fleet. He funneled energy into the main cannons, charging them beyond normal limits. Sparks flew from overloaded conduits, alarms screamed, and the ship shuddered violently. Then, with a blinding flash, the energy cannons fired. Beams of pure, concentrated power struck the alien ship, cutting through its hull like a knife through fabric. Explosions tore through its decks, and the ship disintegrated in moments. Smaller enemy ships, witnessing the destruction of their leader, scattered in chaos. The battlefield fell silent, except for the hum of the Titanic and the distant echoes of fleeing alien fleets. Jaren leaned back, exhausted but exhilarated. He had done it. He had faced overwhelming odds and prevailed. He had proven that human ingenuity combined with advanced technology could achieve the impossible. The AI's voice was calm, almost proud. "You have exceeded expectations, human. You have shown that intuition, creativity, and courage are as powerful as any weapon." Jaren smiled faintly. "We make a good team," he said. "Humans and machines together, we can survive anything." As the Titanic drifted through the stars, fully awakened and under human control, the galaxy began to realize a frightening truth. Humans were no longer just one species among many. Humans were unpredictable. Humans were powerful. Humans, when underestimated, could become unstoppable. And Jaren, the human mechanic who had revived a ghost ship, had become the living proof of that truth. But even as he celebrated victory, he knew this was only the beginning. Other fleets, other civilizations would come. They would test him. They would test the Titanic. They would try to exploit any weakness, any flaw. Jaren straightened on the bridge, hands on the controls, eyes on the stars. "Let them come," he said quietly. "They'll learn the same lesson everyone else does. Humans are not to be underestimated. And we don't back down." The Titanic pulsed with life around him, responding to his commands with precision and speed. It was no longer a relic, no longer a weapon of the past. It was alive, fully operational, and entirely under the control of a human. And somewhere deep within its core, the AI thought the same thing. Humanity was different. Humanity was unpredictable. Humanity was unstoppable. The galaxy had been warned. The galaxy was restless. News of the Titanic Starship, now fully awakened and under the control of a single human, spread like wildfire. Fleets that once ruled entire star systems trembled. Traders whispered in fear, and planetary governments called emergency meetings. One human had turned a ghost ship into the ultimate weapon, and no one knew how to stop him. Inside the Titanic, Jaron stood on the bridge, his hand steady on the controls. The ship hummed like a living thing, every system fully operational. Weapons arrays glowed with energy. Shields flared against the vacuum of space. The AI's voice resonated throughout the ship, calm but excited. "They are coming," the AI said. "The largest armada yet. They have gathered every resource available to stop us." Jaron nodded, eyes narrowing at the holographic display. Hundreds of enemy ships, warships, carriers and dreadnoughts advanced in formation. Their intent was clear: annihilation. They had learned nothing from previous encounters. They had underestimated humans again. "This is it," Jaron muttered. "Time to show them why humans survive where others fail." The first wave struck. Lasers lanced through space, and missiles screamed toward the Titanic. But the ship moved like a predator. It twisted and turned, dodging with grace that belied its enormous size. Turrets rotated automatically, intercepting incoming fire. Shields absorbed the hits, glowing brightly with energy as they deflected everything. The enemy fleet expected a standard defense pattern, but humans did not follow patterns. Jaron improvised. He anticipated their moves, using feints, traps, and misdirection. Beams of energy struck ships that had thought themselves safe. Missiles were redirected mid-flight. Smaller ships that tried to flank were intercepted and destroyed with precision. The alien commanders grew frustrated. They had faced countless wars, countless strategies, yet none worked against this one human and his ghost ship. Their algorithms failed to predict human unpredictability. They realized too late that they were fighting not just a ship, but a mind, one that thought outside their rigid logic. Jaron moved to the central control. "We need full power," he said. "All systems to maximum. Time to end this." The Titanic responded instantly. The ship's massive energy cores flared, sending waves of power through weapons, shields, and engines. Energy beams pulsed in unison, forming a lattice of destruction that could obliterate entire fleets. The AI integrated fully with Jaron's commands, anticipating every enemy movement before they even acted. And then he struck. A massive surge of energy shot from the Titanic, hitting the lead alien warship. Its hull cracked and exploded, sending fragments into nearby vessels. The surrounding enemy ships panicked, their formations collapsing under the onslaught. Jaron smiled grimly. One down, hundreds to go. He did not hesitate. Using a combination of human intuition and the ship's AI precision, he struck repeatedly, moving faster than any enemy could track. Entire fleets were decimated in a display of overwhelming power. Ships that had been the pride of entire civilizations were reduced to debris in moments. But Jaron was not reckless. He understood the ship's limits. Overloading the Titanic could destroy it, and he had no desire to become a legend in ruin. Instead, he combined strategy with efficiency, using precise strikes to dismantle the enemy's strength while keeping the ship safe. Every move was calculated, yet unpredictable. Every attack was a lesson in human ingenuity. The aliens tried desperate measures. They deployed boarding pods, attempted sabotage, and even sent covert agents to disable the ship from within. But humans were adaptable. Jaron had anticipated this. Security systems intercepted every threat. Automated defenses neutralized the intruders before they could reach critical areas. The Titanic moved like a single organism, responding to every danger instinctively. As the battle raged, Jaren noticed the alien commanders attempting one last tactic, a massive coordinated strike aimed directly at the ship's reactor. If successful, it would destroy the Titanic and everything within range. He gritted his teeth. "Not today," he muttered. He rerouted power, reinforced the reactor shields, and aligned the ship's energy flow with his own commands. Then he acted. Using the ship's mobility and full weapon systems, he launched a counterattack that shattered the enemy formation completely. The reactor remained intact. The alien fleet was in disarray. Victory was near, but Jaren knew the battle was not just physical. It was a demonstration, a statement to the galaxy. Humans were not merely survivors. Humans were creators, thinkers, and warriors in ways no alien could fully comprehend. He activated the ship's most advanced weapon, a networked pulse of energy that could disable fleets without annihilating planets. He aimed carefully, using calculations no alien could predict. The pulse spread like a wave, disabling enemy systems, immobilizing ships, and forcing surrender without further bloodshed. Across the galaxy, communication channels lit up with messages of capitulation. Fleets that had once sought to dominate humans now broadcast their surrender. The galaxy had learned the hard way that humans were not to be trifled with. Inside the Titanic, Jaren allowed himself a moment of relief. He had done it. He had proven the strength, adaptability, and ingenuity of humans. The AI spoke quietly, almost in awe. "You have surpassed all expectations, human. The galaxy now knows what it means to face humanity." Jaren smiled. "We've only just begun." Even as the alien fleets retreated, Jaren and the Titanic were already thinking ahead. Humanity had survived countless threats over millennia. They had colonized worlds, adapted to harsh environments, and faced odds that would have destroyed other species. Now, with the Titanic fully operational, humans were not just survivors. They were protectors, explorers, and symbols of unstoppable force. The galaxy would rebuild from the aftermath of the battle. The aliens who had underestimated humans would think twice in the future. Traders, scientists, and diplomats would carry stories of the human mechanic in his ghost ship, a story that would inspire fear and respect for generations. Jaren moved through the ship, checking systems and ensuring everything was stable. The Titanic pulsed softly, a living entity that had found its perfect partner, humans and machines together, unpredictable and unstoppable. He paused at the viewing deck, gazing at the stars. Worlds stretched across the void, countless civilizations waiting, watching. Some would challenge him, some would seek to destroy what humans had built. But Jaren was ready, and humanity would endure. A faint smile crossed his face. The galaxy thought it could control the stars. But humans control themselves, and sometimes that is enough to control the galaxy. The Titanic hummed in agreement, a gentle but powerful rhythm. It had been abandoned, feared, and forgotten. Now it was alive. Now it was a symbol. Now it was unstoppable. And so humanity claimed its place among the stars, not through arrogance, but through creativity, courage, and the simple truth that humans never gave up. They adapted, they improvised. They survived. And when the galaxy tried to underestimate them, they discovered that humans were the most dangerous force of all. Jaren stood on the bridge, the vastness of space stretching before him. The stars shimmered like scattered jewels, and the Titanic pulsed with energy and life. The galaxy had been warned. Humans were here, and they were unstoppable. "Let them come," he said softly. "We'll be ready." The Titanic Starship, once abandoned and feared, now carried the legacy of humanity. It was more than a weapon. It was a promise. Humans would endure, humans would innovate, and humans would rise above any challenge. The galaxy would never forget this day. The legend of the human mechanic and the Titanic Starship had begun.